Welcome to Screen Scan. In today's episode, we'll delve into 2008 movie titled Jumper. Be prepared for spoilers as we explore its narrative. Stay alert and enjoy the journey. Let's begin our exploration. Introverted teenager David Rice harbors feelings for the adventurous Millie, played by Anna Sophia Robb, who dreams of seeing the world. In an attempt to impress her, he gifts her a quaint snow globe featuring the Eiffel Tower. However, their moment is ruined when the school's tormentor, Mark, portrayed by Jesse James, snatches the globe and hurls it onto a frozen river. Bravely, David steps onto the icy expanse to retrieve it, triumphantly retrieves the globe, but then tragically plunges through the thin ice into the chilling waters below. Swept away by the strong current, David faces certain death in the icy depths, deprived of oxygen. Miraculously, he next finds himself lying in the library, amidst the bookshelves, drenched in water, taking labored breaths, and very much alive. Drenched from his unexpected plunge, David returns home only to face his father's, Michael Rooker, stern reprimand. Retreating to his room, he secures the door with a chain, yet when his irate father forcefully opens it, he finds nothing but a gust of wind. David has disappeared. He reappears in the shadowy, damp corridors of the library, realizing he is once again teleported. This revelation sparks a hope in David. He possesses the power to alter his destiny, to flee from his oppressive life, mirroring the way his mother left them when he was only 5. Gathering a modest sum of money and a few essentials, David contemplates leaving town. However, he makes one final stop outside Millie's residence. Inside, Millie, engulfed in her mother's embrace, is convinced of David's demise. Disturbed by a sound outside, she steps into the yard to discover the snow globe resting on the swing set, a silent testament to David's survival. Despite her calls into the night, he remains hidden, his presence suggested only by the gift he left behind. The following morning, he finds himself on a bus headed towards the city, where he secures a modestly priced room. In the tranquility of the park, he dedicates his time to mastering his teleportation ability, gradually learning to wield his power with precision. His ambition soon leads him to a bank, which he observes meticulously before executing a daring heist. Utilizing his teleportation, he penetrates the vault in the dead of night, only to find amusement in the fact that his bag is too small to carry all the cash. He teleports back and forth between the bank and his humble hotel room, each time returning with a larger bag, until his room is flooded with cash, and he reclines on a makeshift bed of money. However, the scene at the bank draws the attention of the enigmatic Roland, Samuel L. Jackson, who introduces himself as an NSA agent during the investigation, his demeanor betraying no surprise at the nature of the heist. His calmness and knowledge hint at an awareness of teleportation abilities, suggesting his affiliation with a formidable organization intent on tracking down the unconventional bank robber. As time progresses, David, portrayed by Hayden Christensen, finds himself living in a luxurious urban apartment, its walls adorned with photographs of his global adventures and a secure vault room brimming with cash. He indulges in the joys of life across the globe, catching waves in Fiji, enjoying lunch with a view atop the Sphinx in Egypt, and charming a companion in a British pub. Preferring the convenience of his unique ability, he teleports from one area to another within his apartment, avoiding even the slightest physical effort to move. Meanwhile, he remains aloof to the struggles of the outside world, such as the plight of individuals battling rising floodwaters on television, showcasing a disconnection from the hardships faced by those less fortunate. With his once serene life now in turmoil, David resolves to reconnect with his long-lost love, Millie, played by Rachel Bilson. He discovers that she remains in their hometown, employed at a local bar. Fatefully, David's old adversary, Mark, portrayed by Teddy Dunn, reignites their past conflict by instigating a fight. In a swift response, David uses his teleportation ability to whisk Mark away, depositing him inside a bank vault, before leaving him stranded there. After his encounter with Mark, David returns to the bar and proposes to Millie that they travel together to Rome, her dream destination. Despite her initial shock, the allure of fulfilling her lifelong dream leads her to accept his offer. In Rome, David revels in Millie's joy as he guides her through the historic city. Their exploration hits a snag when they discover the Colosseum is closed, but David refuses to be deterred. Sneaking around a corner, he surprises Millie by opening a gate, allowing them secret access for a private exploration. Their adventure takes an unexpected turn in the depths of the Colosseum when they encounter another jumper, Griffin, Jamie Bell, who reveals to David that he's not alone in his abilities. Griffin also warns of the Paladins, a group dedicated to exterminating jumpers like them, just as 2 Paladins appear on the scene. Griffin, seasoned in combat against such foes, dispatches the attackers and teleports away, with David in pursuit to his hideout. At Griffin's lair, David is overwhelmed with questions. But Griffin's terse explanations, including a mention of dropping a paladin into a shark-infested area, do little to clarify the situation. Griffin starkly informs David of the grave dangers that come with their powers, cautioning him that having a girlfriend, family, or friends is a liability. He warns David that the paladins will not hesitate to target his loved ones to reach him, implying that those connections are vulnerabilities that could lead to their deaths. David reunites with Millie, and they decide to leave, successfully evading the officials within the Colosseum. However, their attempt at escape is thwarted when they are detained outside the historic site. Choosing not to use his teleportation abilities, David urges Millie to return to the hotel on her own, but she steadfastly refuses to leave him. After enduring hours of interrogation by the police, who withhold his passport pending the arrival of other authorities, an unexpected turn of events occurs. A woman, played by Diane Lane, materializes, urging David to flee and leave Millie behind, while ominously counting down the minutes he has to escape. In a moment of revelation, David recognizes her from photographs of his childhood. She is his mother. With this newfound knowledge, David retrieves Millie and escorts her to the airport. It is there, amidst the bustle of departure and the weight of his recent discoveries, that he shares with her, filled with regret, the harsh reality that he cannot accompany her back home. While David navigates the complexities of his newfound reality, Roland takes advantage of the situation by interrogating Mark, the individual David had abandoned in a bank vault. Mark, worn out from his futile attempts to convince skeptical authorities of his extraordinary tale, finally divulges all he knows about David, including their shared hometown and any other details within his knowledge. Armed with this information, Roland makes a calculated move to visit David's father, seeking leverage or insight into David's whereabouts. Feeling the weight of Griffin's warnings about the dangers his powers pose to his loved ones, David's resolve is tested. He decides to seek out Griffin once more, bombarding him with questions, until the peril his family faces truly dawns on him. In a rush of urgency, David teleports to his childhood home only to find his father incapacitated on the floor. Overcome with emotion, he hastily transports his father to the emergency room of a nearby hospital. Desperate for medical intervention, David's next stop is the jail holding Mark, seeking to understand the extent of what was disclosed to Roland. Mark's admission that he revealed everything to Roland heightens the stakes, leaving David to confront the dire consequences of his actions and the relentless pursuit by those who seek to end jumpers. David comes to the unsettling realization that Millie will be in immediate danger the moment she lands in the USA. Desperate, he seeks Griffin's assistance, but Griffin initially declines. Undeterred, David persistently follows Griffin through various jumps, attempting to persuade him. In a bold move, Griffin commandeers a car, and they proceed to navigate the traffic in an unconventional manner, with Griffin teleporting the vehicle as needed. During their journey, they share fragments of their pasts. Griffin reveals that the Paladins were responsible for his parents' deaths when he was just 5, mirroring the age at which David's mother abandoned him. Curious about the limits of their teleportation ability, David inquires about teleporting larger objects. Griffin responds with a cautionary tale of a jumper who ambitiously tried to teleport a building and met a fatal end. After a series of discussions and shared experiences, Griffin eventually consents to assist David, but specifies that his help will be a limited engagement. The numerous sketches of Roland adorning Griffin's residence underscore his personal vendetta against the Paladin, revealing a deeper layer of motivation behind his decision to aid David. This agreement marks the beginning of a temporary but significant alliance forged out of mutual understanding and shared adversaries. Upon their return to the USA, David discovers that Millie's flight landed an hour earlier. He rushes to her apartment, intent on whisking her away before she encounters any danger. However, Roland and his assault team preempt David's arrival, leaving no time for explanations. In a desperate move, David teleports Millie to Griffin's hideout, a decision that earns him a stern reprimand from Griffin. Griffin explains the critical mistake David made. Teleporting directly to his lair allows Roland to trace their location instantly. As Griffin hastily plans to vacate his now compromised sanctuary, Roland and his team launch an attack, igniting an intense confrontation. Amidst the chaos, Griffin attempts a daring maneuver by teleporting a bus aimed at Roland, who narrowly escapes by diving under it. Meanwhile, David finds himself ensnared, immobilized against a corner by Roland's electrified cables, left to be dealt with later. Millie steps in to free David, and her actions are a mix of bravery and trepidation. Her confrontation with the surreal and dangerous world David is entangled in sparks anger and fear, leading her to insist on a return to the normalcy of her own life. She demands David take her home and leave her be, a plea for simplicity amidst the turmoil. However, Her desire for normalcy is short-lived as she quickly becomes a captive, used as leverage against David. Griffin concocts a drastic plan to eliminate Roland by planting a bomb in Millie's apartment. This reckless strategy, however, would result in the collateral loss of innocent lives, including Millie's. Unwilling to accept such an outcome, David opposes Griffin's plan, leading to a global chase. The two jumpers engage in a frantic battle over possession of the bomb and then the detonator, their conflict escalating from a dramatic plunge off the Empire State Building to a sudden emergence in a conflict-ridden war zone. There, David manages to ensnare Griffin with entangled power lines, rendering him immobilized in a manner reminiscent of Roland's previous traps. With Griffin momentarily out of the equation, David steels himself to confront the dangers awaiting at Millie's apartment, fully aware of the peril he faces. Upon arrival, he is swiftly restrained with electric wires, securely fastened to the walls, effectively trapping him. In a critical moment, David instructs Millie to draw near. Inspired by Griffin's earlier tale, David wisely chooses not to attempt moving the entire building. Instead, he focuses his efforts on teleporting only the segments of the building tethered by the anchor wires. Employing his unique ability under these dire circumstances, David initiates a catastrophic unraveling of the building structure. As he activates his power, the building's integrity is compromised, leading to the dramatic disintegration of the apartment. The roof shatters under the strain, and the apartment itself vanishes, leaving destruction in its wake and altering the dynamics of the confrontation. David resolves the conflict with Roland by teleporting him to a remote cave, sparing him a more perilous fate among sharks. After issuing a warning, David disappears, leaving Roland to discover his new surroundings as he approaches the cave's entrance, revealing a daunting vista from an isolated cliff within the Grand Canyon. As the season turns to winter, David approaches a luxurious residence and knocks. A teenage girl, portrayed by Kristen Stewart, answers, soon followed by David's mother, who quickly sends her daughter away. David's visit is driven by a need for answers, to understand the reasons behind his abandonment in childhood. His mother reveals a shocking truth. She is a paladin, bound by a creed to eliminate those like David. His first act of teleportation at the age of 5 presented her with an impossible choice. Unable to bring harm to her own son, she chose exile over execution, a decision rooted in love rather than abandonment. David seeks more than just explanations. He yearns for a gesture that could bridge the gulf of years and lost opportunities. His mother responds, subtly hinting at the immediate danger he faces by granting him a head start, an act of protection and perhaps the most she can offer given her allegiances. The realization dawns on David that this is all the closure he will receive. Outside, Millie awaits him, embodying a choice for a future untethered from the past chains. When asked where she desires to go, her response, "Surprise me," encapsulates a readiness to embrace the unknown. Together, they teleport, stepping into a future where possibilities are boundless, leaving behind a world rife with conflict and revelations.